I'm very excited to share with you this next feature that was included in the latest update. And this one is designed specifically for those who have multi-needle machines and those who are looking at or either already are running a business. Some of the most difficult things to do when running a business is trying to figure out how to price your embroidery. And a lot of times, you know, what makes it so difficult is that the most people price it based on the number of stitches in a design. And the issue with that is that when you're running a design out on a machine, every time that a trim or a color change takes place, it greatly affects the amount of time the design takes to sew out. And because of this, a lot of times we will run a very small design that has a bunch of trims in it, and it will take much longer to sew out than maybe a design that has 25% more stitches in it, or even double the amount of stitches but very few trims or color changes. And so it's a very complicated thing, and you want to make sure that you're able to get a good idea for how long it's going to take you to run a design out before you give a quote. And so in this new feature that we have, it's called the design analysis. What it will do is it will analyze your design and give you a bunch of information that you can utilize. So let's go ahead, and we have this design up. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Design Analysis. So File on the menu bar, and then Design Analysis. And this brings up a box, and in this Design Analysis box you will see information about your design: size, the date that it was created, the width and height. You have the total number of stitches, the total number of color changes in your design. You can see over here 1, 2, and I'm in the sequence view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's going to be 6 color changes that take place in this design. And then it shows you the number of trims. So there's going to be 23 trims that take place in this design. And this is very important information when trying to figure out how long it's going to take you to run a design out, because every time that there's a color change that takes place, it takes a certain number of seconds to execute that. Same thing with a trim. And every time that you're starting and stopping, it just adds longer and longer time to sew the design out. And many designs can have a lot of trims, and that's what will really consume the most amount of time at the machine. So let's go ahead and let's click on this Colors tab. What this is going to do is going to show you the colors in the sequence in which they are going to run out on your machine. And in here it tells you how many stitches there are for each color sequence. It tells you the length of stitch, the amount of thread basically that it's going to utilize, the color of the thread, and what brand it is, the color number and brand. So this is just great information that you can utilize. Statistics. This is going to tell you a little bit about the design. This is very interesting information. For those of you who are experienced digitizers that that pay attention to the stitch lengths and all of that in your design, this kind of gives you a breakdown. What this says is for stitches that are between 0 and 3 points in size, it's only consists of 1.56% of the design. So 20 points to 39 points, which if you're wanting to calculate that into millimeters, all you need to do is add a point. So a 20 is really 2.0 millimeters to 3.9 millimeters. 42% of the design falls in that range. 52% falls into a 1 to 1.9, and you can see that there's a lot of little run stitches in here. So it just kind of gives you a little information about how much of the design utilizes a what stitch length for the patterns and stuff. It's really just kind of helpful information because that affects your stitch count as well. And let's go ahead to the production. This is the part that's going to help you analyze how much time it's going to take you to sew your design out. So when we click on this production, you can see that I have a machine times, and this the one that's selected is generic. And you do have the ability by default when you first open the software, you're only going to have this generic one. What I did is I went ahead and and put in and made my own machines. So if you have multiple brands of machines, each of them take a little bit different amount of time. You might run them at different speeds, and the trims and color changes can also take a different amount of time to execute. So what you'll see in here is you have rates per minute 600. That means that you're going to run your machine at 600 stitches per minute, and you have your trims, and in this setting it says your trims take 2 seconds and your color changes take 4 seconds. So if you have a machine that will do a trim, what you will need to do is run a design out, and when a trim takes place, go ahead and time how long it takes to do it. So as your design sewing out, once it gets that last stitch and starts to execute a trim, just time the amount of time it takes to do that trim and before it gets started with the next stitch. And that's going to give you the amount of seconds that you need to put into here. And a color change, for those of you who have the 6 needle, what I recommend doing is running just a little design out and having it run on color number 1 and have it move to color number 6 during the color change. So it goes color number 1 is being run, and then when that color change takes place, have it move all the way over to the last needle color, and time the amount of time it takes from the moment it stops. Does the start it right then, it'll do the trim and move, and then stop the timing after it starts to sew that next color out. So you're really just focusing on the amount of time it takes to execute that color change or that trim, and this is where the information is displayed. So I will show you that right now with this design, it does have 6,334 stitches in it, and we can go back to our details here, and you can see 6,334 stitches, and it's estimating with this setting that it's going to take about 11 minutes and 43 seconds. Now let's go ahead and switch it to a different machine. In this machine I have it set at 6 minutes and 640 stitches per minute, saying that that's what I'm going to run at the machine, and I'm telling it that it takes 10 seconds to do a trim and 15 seconds to do a color change. And so what you'll notice is that this time is definitely changed, and because if I run it on this machine, it's going to take it a different time than the previous one. So let me go ahead to this other machine in here that I have selected, and I'm saying I'm going to run at 800. It takes 9 seconds to do a trim and 13 seconds to do a color change, so it's going to take 12 minutes and 40 seconds. So let's go back to generic. 11 minutes and 43, that's the shortest amount of time, and that's basically because of the number of trims and color changes. It takes a lot less time than the other machines. So you can see just how much, because the stitches per minute is actually less than the other two, but you can see how much time a trim and a color change affects the amount of time it takes to sew your machine out. And just so you know, you do have the ability to add a machine, and you can edit the settings. So I have a test one here, and I have it at 800 stitches per minute, 7 seconds to do a trim, 10 seconds to do a color change. You can see it would take 11 minutes and 36 seconds. Let me go ahead and edit, click edit. So what I'm doing is I'm editing this test machine here, and I can come in here now and I can say, well, you know what, I calculated it, and I know that it takes 10 seconds to do a trim, and it takes 15 seconds to do a color change, but I'm still going to run it at 800 stitches per minute. You can see what happened there. It jumped from 10 minutes and something to 13 minutes and something, all because of the amount of time it takes to do those color changes and those trims. So this is very valuable information. You'll have to do a little testing for your machine, because every machine is different. You're going to need to test how long it takes to trim and how long it takes to do a color change, and you're going to have to put in there the rate in which you're going to sew the design out at your machine, how many stitches per minute. Embroidery machines do vary some, so you might have to modify, you might need to change a few things as far as the amount of time or the rate in which the machine sews. Um, and this is just an estimator, so it's going to give you a rough idea of how long it's going to take you to do the design. And the nice thing about that for those who are running a business is this is really the information you need to know on how you're going to price that embroidery, because you want to figure out how much money you need to make per hour running designs out. And so this will let you know how many you will be able to produce in an hour's time. And so it's very valuable. So I hope that you enjoy this, and we have the ability, like I said before, you can edit one, and you can even add a new machine. So I could call this one maybe Test 2, or maybe a different machine brand, Test 2 here, and I can put in the settings. I'm going to run this one out at 1,000 stitches per minute, and I'm going to, it takes me 6 seconds to do a trim, it takes me 9 seconds to do a color change. I'm going to hit OK. You can see what that did. So machine speed does play a factor, but you will notice that trims and color changes impact the time it takes to do a design greatly as well. So this is just very good information. You can learn a lot about digitizing just by tweaking designs a little bit and then coming in here to the production time. And so I hope that you have fun with it. There'll be some information out there, more information about how to kind of test your machine and get these settings tweaked to where it's pretty accurate with your machine and the time that it displays. And I hope that you enjoy this new feature as much as we do. Those who run a business, we highly recommend that you take the time to work with this, as this will be a very valuable tool to you in helping you learn how to price your embroidery better. So enjoy.